Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some Nantes cakes, Nantes, which is a city in France. And these Nantes cakes are from a cookbook called the Monet Cookbook, which I got a couple of months ago. And by coincidence, somebody who watches my videos, Juno Wonderfrog, mentioned this cookbook to me, and she was going to send me a copy, but I already had it. But I did promise her that when I got back from Canada I would make at least one recipe from this cookbook, and so that's the one I'm going to do today. These Nantes cakes, which are a sort of biscuit type or cookie type thing from what I can see, with flour and almonds and some lemon zest in them, and they look very good. I'm a bit suspect about part of the recipe, which I'll explain when I do the ingredients. So to start off with, I have my oven preheating at 350 Fahrenheit, which is 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, and I've lined some baking sheets with parchment paper. Now the recipe says lightly greased, so I may actually spray a little bit of baking oil on the parchment paper, simply because it says that, but I don't know whether it's actually necessary. And for the ingredients, I have 500 grams of plain flour, which is 4 cups. I have 100 grams, which I think is 1 cup, although the recipe says is half a cup, of ground almonds. I have 250 grams, which I think is 1¼ cups, and the recipe says is 1 cup, of what they call superfine sugar, which is caster sugar. That's granulated sugar, which is, if you can't get caster sugar, you can use granulated sugar, but put it in a food processor and grind it a little bit smaller. I have 250 grams, which is 2 sticks plus 2 tablespoons, minus a very little bit, of softened butter. I have the zest from 1 lemon, and I have 4 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA. I'm also going to use some flaked almonds at the end to put on the top of the rolled out dough. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put the ground almonds, the sugar and the lemon zest into a large bowl, and I'm going to give them a stir around with a whisk just to get them combined a little bit. That's fine, and then what I'm going to do is to put the eggs and the butter into the middle, and I'm going to mix those until it becomes a thick batter. Now you can do this by hand, but I'm going to do it with my hand mixer just for speed. So that's the butter in and the eggs. And I just want to mix it until it all comes together into a nice thick batter or dough. So as you can see, that's mixed quite nicely. And I'll just turn it over to make sure any at the bottom gets incorporated. I'm going to work that with my hand just to finish it off. It's very soft. Now normally I would chill this before working with it, but I'm not going to, because that's not what the recipe said to do. But what I am going to do is to flour my work surface, because I think that's going to be far too sticky to work with. And then I'm going to take about half of that dough and work with it, and then I'll do the other half later. And the recipe says this is going to make about 20, but again I think it actually may make many more than that, if rolling it out the way they say is the correct thing to do. It says to roll out to about a quarter of a centimetre, which is about 3 millilitres, but I'm going to roll it out to a quarter of an inch, which is 5 millimetres, not millilitres. And as you can see, it's going to be extremely difficult to be able to work with this. So I'm going to flour the top. And then I'm going to cut out some rounds of about 3 inches with the cookie cutter. It says use the top of a drinking glass, which is not very indicative of the size they should be. And I'm going to put them onto the baking tray. Leaving a big gap in between each one of an inch and a half. So with the Nantes cakes rolled out and on the baking tray, I'm simply going to put a few little flaked almonds on the top, like that, and I'm going to bake these in the oven for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to take them out of the oven and leave them to cool on the baking trays for a few minutes, and then transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. Then I'll come back and show you the results. So I'm back with you, and I baked our cookies. I actually let them bake for 18 minutes. And I'm a bit confused by the recipe in the book, because it does indicate 20 cookies and I got 48. That amount of ingredients certainly would make more than 20 cookies. To get 20 cookies, they would have to be 60 or 70 grams each in weight, which would be rather large. But anyway, this is what they look like, and I'm not sure how authentic this is to the recipe. They do look very similar, but they're cookies rather than cakes, I think. So I'll have a taste of one. Well, they taste very nice. Pretty similar to shortbread, really. A very, very, very mild suggestion of lemon. I think really twice as much lemon zest would have worked very well in this. But they do taste very good. So I hope you've enjoyed this recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link to it below the video. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future, so until then, happy baking.